My name is Naomi Carter, and I'm 28 years old. Yesterday morning, I stood in Terminal B and watched my boyfriend disappear behind airport security, with a carry-on in one hand and a lie in the other. At the time, I didn't know how much of our relationship was already over. I only knew something felt wrong in that quiet, slippery way things feel wrong before you have proof. Not loud, not dramatic, just wrong enough that your body notices before your mind is ready to. Evan had kissed me twice before stepping into line. Quick, distracted kisses, the kind you give when your thoughts are already somewhere else. "Text me when you land," I said. He smiled without really smiling. Of course. Then he was gone. I stood there a few seconds longer than necessary, watching people shuffle through security with coffee cups and neck pillows and tired expressions, all of them looking ordinary, all of them carrying pieces of lives I would never know. Then I turned and walked back through the airport alone, my doubt already starting to sharpen into something harder. My boyfriend, Evan Mercer, was 26. We'd been together 18 months and living together for 6. He worked remotely as a graphic designer, which meant he had the kind of schedule that sounded flexible and creative when he described it, and suspiciously vague when rent was due. Still, I had defended him more than once. I told people he was building something. I told myself the same thing. 3 weeks earlier, over takeout at my kitchen island, he had mentioned the trip for the first time. "I'm going to be gone for a week in early November," he'd said casually, like he was mentioning a dentist appointment. "A friend from college is getting married." I looked up from my noodles. "A whole week?" He shrugged. "Her name's Lauren. We haven't seen each other in forever. A bunch of people from that old group are going. She asked me to come early and help set things up." That, by itself, wasn't strange. Evan was good at sounding helpful and easygoing. It was one of the reasons people forgave him things faster than they should have. "Where's the wedding?" I asked. "New York," he said. "Upstate. Gorgeous venue, apparently." I nodded. "Want me to come?" That should have been an easy question. Normally, Evan loved when I tagged along. Work dinners, birthdays, weekend trips, random networking events where nobody actually networked. He liked having me there, or at least he liked looking like the kind of man who had a steady, supportive girlfriend at his side. But that night, he shut it down almost too quickly. No, it's going to be tiny. You'd be bored out of your mind. It's mostly old college people and wedding prep stuff." He smiled when he said it, but there was tension in his mouth. I remember twirling noodles around my fork and saying lightly, "I can entertain myself." "I know." He reached for my hand across the counter and squeezed it. "I just want this one to be simple." Simple. At the time, I let it go. Not because I believed him completely, but because women get trained to ignore their first instinct when it arrives without proof. We tell ourselves not to be paranoid, not to be controlling, not to be the woman who turns a feeling into a fight. So I smiled, finished dinner, and pretended the word simple didn't echo strangely in my head. The first crack came a few days later. Evan was online shopping for something to wear to the wedding, and I was half watching from the couch while answering emails on my laptop. He held up a deep blue button-down and said, "Do you think this is too much? I know blue was always..." He stopped. I looked up. "Always what?" He blinked once, then laughed too quickly. I know blue is one of Lauren's wedding colors. Blue and silver. There was something too polished in the correction, like a sentence rewritten in real time. I narrowed my eyes. "You said always." "Did I?" He grinned and tossed the shirt back on the bed. "Maybe I'm just tired." Maybe. But from then on, I started noticing things I would have ignored before. He was unusually protective of his phone. Not cartoonishly obvious about it, just enough. Turning the screen face down. Carrying it into the bathroom. Answering messages with that tiny private half-smile people get when they're saying something they don't want translated. Then there was the flight. He was booking it from the sofa while I stood behind him folding laundry. I only glanced at the screen because I happened to be there. "Round trip, Albany." I frowned. "I thought you said the wedding was in the city." He clicked to another tab almost immediately. "No, I said New York. Albany's closer to the venue. It was cheaper than flying into the city." Maybe he had said that. Maybe I had filled in the rest myself. That's the problem with small lies. They leave just enough room for the person being lied to participate in her own confusion. Still, the unease inside me sharpened. "Who's picking you up?" I asked. "Probably one of the wedding people." "One of the wedding people," I repeated. He laughed. "You know what I mean." I did. I also knew he wasn't telling me much. The third crack wasn't a crack at all. It was a break. It happened 4 days before his flight. He was in the shower. I was clearing dishes from the coffee table when I noticed his tablet lying face up on the couch, screen lit from a notification. I almost ignored it. I should have ignored it. That's the version of this story people prefer, the one where I remain morally spotless while everyone else reveals themselves on schedule. But that isn't what happened. The screen lit again. Sienna M. I can't wait to see you. Daniel still doesn't know I asked you to come early. This week is going to be insane. My hand froze around his empty coffee mug. Sienna. I knew that name. Sienna Hale was his ex-girlfriend, the one he'd described in careful, unfinished sentences over the course of our relationship. The one who broke his heart 2 years earlier, the one he had once referred to as the right person at the wrong time, then immediately acted like he hadn't said anything serious. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed. Then I set the mug down very slowly. I could hear the shower still running, steam hissing behind the bathroom door, the ordinary sounds of ordinary betrayal. I picked up the tablet. I wish I could say I hesitated longer. I didn't. There was no password, just the thread. At first, the messages looked almost harmless. A reconnection, a little nostalgia, old jokes, college memories. But that illusion lasted maybe 30 seconds. Then I hit the messages from 2 months earlier. Sienna, I know I shouldn't be talking to you like this before the wedding. Evan, then why did you text me? Sienna, because I keep thinking about the last night before you left. My throat tightened. I kept reading. She was the bride. Daniel was the man she was supposed to marry. Evan had lied about everything except the fact that there was, technically, a wedding. Further down, the tone shifted from wistful to dangerous. Evan, you're really doing this, marrying him? Sienna, my parents adore him. The family's work. It makes sense. Evan, that's not the same thing as love. Sienna, you're making this harder. Evan, you texted me first. There were long gaps between some messages, then sudden late-night bursts that felt too intimate even when they weren't explicit. That was the ugliest part. It wasn't messy enough to dismiss as drunk nostalgia. It was deliberate, sustained, and fed in private. Then I found the hotel message. Sienna, I booked you the room next to mine. Daniel thinks it's for my cousin. Evan, that's a terrible idea. Sienna, probably. Evan, then why am I smiling? My stomach dropped so hard I had to sit down. Next to hers. Not across the hall. Not somewhere else in the same hotel. Next to hers. I kept scrolling, each message stripping another layer off the version of my life I thought I was living. He had lied about the wedding. Lied about who invited him. Lied about why he needed a week. Lied about why I couldn't come. And maybe worst of all, he had let me stand there in my apartment, in the small routine life I was helping build, while another woman occupied the emotional center of his attention. There was even a message from the day before. Evan, Naomi has no idea. I read that line twice. Not because I didn't understand it, because I did. The shower turned off. My heart slammed once against my ribs. I snapped screenshots of everything I could, fast but carefully. The messages, the hotel booking, the travel dates, her full name, the groom's name, anything that mattered. I sent them to my cloud drive, then put the tablet back exactly where I'd found it. By the time Evan came out in a towel, hair damp and curling at the edges, I was standing in the kitchen rinsing a glass like nothing had happened. He came up behind me and kissed my shoulder. You okay? He asked. I turned and smiled at him. Calm, warm, controlled. Yeah, why? He studied my face for half a second, then relaxed. You just look tired. I probably am. That part was true. For the next 4 days, I watched him pack for another woman's wedding. I watched him fold shirts with absent-minded care. I watched him buy new cologne and tell me it was because travel-size bottles were annoying. I watched him toss an extra nice jacket into his suitcase and claim he just wanted options. I watched him lie so often, so smoothly, that eventually the lies started sounding like a language he spoke better than honesty. And the strangest part was not that I cried. It was that I didn't. I expected rage. I expected sobbing in the bathroom, shaking hands, some dramatic collapse worthy of all the stories people tell about betrayal. Instead, something colder happened. My grief hardened before it fully surfaced. It became focus. By the night before his flight, I knew 2 things for certain. First, Evan was flying to Albany to spend a week at his ex-girlfriend's wedding while pretending to support a college friend. Second, Sienna's fiancé had no idea the woman he was about to marry had invited her ex to stay in the room next to hers. I lay awake beside Evan that night, listening to him breathe and staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment from the past month and wondering how many tiny humiliations I had missed because I had been too busy trusting him. At one point, just before dawn, he turned in his sleep and draped an arm over my waist. I nearly laughed. Not because it was funny. Because some betrayals are so obscene they pass straight through heartbreak and arrive somewhere almost surreal. The next morning, I drove him to the airport. I kissed him goodbye. I told him to have a good trip. And all the while, I already knew exactly what I was going to do next. I didn't go home right away after leaving the airport. Instead, I sat in the parking lot with the engine off, hands still on the steering wheel, watching planes lift into a sky that looked too calm for what I knew was about to happen. Evan was somewhere up there, probably scrolling through his phone, maybe even smiling at messages from her, maybe rereading conversations they weren't supposed to be having, maybe thinking about the week ahead like it was something exciting instead of something rotten. And for a brief moment, I considered doing nothing, letting him go, letting the wedding happen, letting the truth stay buried where it was comfortable for everyone except the people being lied to. It would have been easier, cleaner, no fallout, no strangers dragged into something ugly. I could have waited until he got back, had the conversation, ended things quietly, packed his things, and moved on. But then I remembered that line. Daniel still doesn't know. And something in me settled. Not anger, not revenge. Just clarity. I started the car. By the time I got home, the apartment already felt different. Too quiet. Too still. Like it knew something had shifted and was waiting for me to catch up. Evan's coffee mug was still on the counter. His jacket was still draped over the chair. His shoes still lined up neatly by the door, like he'd be back in a few days, and everything would continue exactly where it left off. I stood there for a second, looking at all of it. Then I walked past it and opened my laptop. If I was going to do this, I wasn't going to do it halfway. I started with the easiest thing, the wedding website. It took less than 3 minutes to find. Sienna Hale and Danielle Rivera, November 3rd. Cypress Estate, upstate New York. There it was, clean, elegant, carefully curated. A smiling photo of them at the top. She looked radiant, soft, certain. The kind of certainty that only exists when no one has shown you the truth yet. He looked happy. That part hit harder than I expected. Daniel didn't look like a placeholder. He didn't look like someone stepping into a role meant for another man. He looked like someone who believed fully that he was about to marry a woman who chose him. I clicked through the pages slowly. Their story, their engagement photos, the schedule for the week, a welcome dinner, a rehearsal, the ceremony, everything mapped out with precision. And somewhere inside that schedule, Evan was supposed to exist like a ghost, hidden, unacknowledged, just a room over. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the screen. You deserve to know, I said quietly. I wasn't sure if I was talking to Daniel or to myself. Next step, her social media. Sienna's profile wasn't private. Of course it wasn't. People who are hiding things rarely look like they are. Her feed was exactly what you'd expect. Bright, warm, filtered just enough to feel effortless. Photos of her and Daniel at dinners, at family gatherings, on trips, smiling into each other like the world made sense. There was a post from 2 days ago. Final week before I become Mrs. Rivera. The comments were full of excitement. Friends, family, people flying in from different places, people who had already booked flights, hotels, outfits, people who were about to walk into a wedding that wasn't real. I closed the tab for a second and rubbed my eyes. This was the part where doubt tried to creep back in. Not about Evan. About me. Who was I to interfere with something this big, this public, this expensive? There were families involved. Travel, deposits, expectations. Lives in a way. I could already hear the accusations forming before they even happened. You ruined everything. You should have stayed out of it. It wasn't your place. Maybe they would have been right. But then again, was it Daniel's fault that he trusted the wrong person? Was it his responsibility to walk into a marriage built on half-truths and hidden conversations? I opened the messages again, scrolled, read, and just like that, the doubt burned away. I didn't rush. That was important. I moved slowly and carefully, like I was assembling something that needed to be exact. First, I organized everything. Every screenshot, every message thread, every timestamp. I labeled them clearly, chronologically. No commentary, no opinions, just facts. Then I added the supporting pieces. The hotel booking confirmation showing adjoining rooms. Evan's flight details. The message where she said Daniel doesn't know. The message where he said Naomi has no idea. I paused on that one for a second. Then I included it anyway. The delivery method took more thought than anything else. I wasn't going to send an anonymous email. Too easy to ignore. Too easy to dismiss as fake. I needed something physical. Something that couldn't be swiped away or deleted in 2 seconds. That's when I found it. A digital photo frame. Simple. Clean. Innocent looking. The kind of thing people actually send as wedding gifts. I ordered one with express shipping. Then I uploaded everything. Not dumped. Curated. The messages played in order, like a story revealing itself piece by piece. Not overwhelming, just undeniable. Slide after slide. Truth after truth. I set it to loop. At checkout, there was a small box for a gift message. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed, "Thought you should see these before Saturday. Consider it an early wedding gift. A concerned friend." I didn't add my name. This wasn't about credit. Shipping address. Cypress Estate. Front desk. Attention. Daniel Rivera. I paid for overnight delivery, closed my laptop, and sat there in silence. The confirmation email came in less than a minute. Your order has been processed. I checked the tracking number more times than I'd admit. Watched it move. Warehouse. Distribution center. Out for delivery. Each update felt like a countdown. I couldn't stop anymore, even if I wanted to. Evan didn't text when he landed. That was the first break in his routine. He always texted. Every trip. Every time. A quick landed safe, or a selfie from the gate, or some joke about airport food. This time, nothing. I looked at my phone. Waited. 5 minutes. 10. An hour. Still nothing. I didn't text him first. I didn't need to. I already knew where his attention was. The delivery confirmation came mid-afternoon. Package delivered. Signed for by D. Rivera. I exhaled slowly. It was done. No undo button, no second thoughts. Whatever happened next wasn't something I controlled anymore. The silence after that was strange. Too quiet for something that big. I expected immediate chaos. Calls, messages, something. Instead, there was nothing. The kind of nothing that stretches just long enough to make you wonder if maybe it hadn't worked. Maybe he hadn't opened it yet. Maybe it was sitting at the front desk. Maybe... My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second, then declined it. If this was the beginning, I wasn't going to rush into it unprepared. Seconds later, it buzzed again. Then a message. Call me. No name. No context. Just 2 words that carried the weight of everything about to collapse. I leaned back against the couch, breathing evenly. For the first time since I saw that message on his tablet, I wasn't guessing anymore. I was waiting. And somewhere, miles away, in a venue decorated for a wedding that was no longer going to happen, the truth had just been plugged in and set to autoplay. I didn't call back right away. That was the first rule I made for myself the moment I sent that package. No reacting. No scrambling. No trying to control the fallout. I had already done the only thing that mattered. I had told the truth. Everything else was just noise. So I let the phone buzz. Again. And then it stopped. For exactly 12 minutes. I remember that because I was staring at the clock on the microwave, counting the seconds without meaning to. At minute 13, my phone lit up again. Not Evan, a name I recognized. Maya, his college friend. The same friend group he had used as cover for the trip. I answered. What did you do? No hello, no hesitation. Just that. I leaned back into the couch. What are you talking about? There was a pause. Not confusion. Calculation. Don't do that, she said, voice tight. Evan just called me. He said you sent something. I thought he was at Lauren's wedding, I replied evenly. Is everything okay? Silence. Then a quiet, oh my God. I didn't push. I didn't need to. She exhaled sharply. Naomi, how did you find out? Find out what? I asked. Another pause. Longer this time. Then softer. He told you it was Lauren. Yeah, I said. That's what he said. She let out a bitter laugh. He's such an idiot. And there it was. Confirmation, without me ever asking for it. Naomi, she continued, lowering her voice. This is bad. Like really bad. Daniel opened whatever you sent after it was brought up to his room. Staff already know a package came in for him, and people are talking. I closed my eyes for a second. Not from regret. From impact. It wasn't supposed to become a spectacle, I said quietly. Just the truth. Well, it is now, she replied. The wedding's... She stopped herself. I shouldn't be the one telling you this. Then don't, I said. Another pause. Then, almost reluctantly, it's basically over. My grip tightened slightly on the phone. Not from surprise. From the weight of hearing it out loud. Evan is freaking out, she added. He's saying you went through his messages, that you twisted everything, that you... Of course he is, I said. Maya didn't argue. That's all I know, she finished. I'm staying out of it. Good idea. She hesitated. Naomi, for what it's worth, he shouldn't have lied to you. Yeah, I said softly. He shouldn't have. We hung up. 20 minutes later, Evan called. I let it go to voicemail. Then another. And another. By the 4th one, I pressed play. Naomi, pick up, please. His voice was tight, controlled, but cracking at the edges. This is insane, what you did. This is insane. Call me back. Second voicemail. You don't understand what you've done. This isn't just about us. There are families here. People flew in from everywhere. He exhaled sharply. Just call me. Third. They called it off. Do you hear me? The wedding is off. Daniel, Silence. Then frustration. I can't believe you would do something like this. Fourth. I'm coming home early. We need to talk. A pause. Then, colder. Actually, no. I'm staying tonight. Someone has to help fix this mess. I almost smiled at that. Fix it. As if truth was something broken that needed repairing. When he called again, I answered. Naomi? Hey, I said calmly. How's Lauren's wedding? Silence. Heavy. Immediate. Drop it, he snapped. You know exactly where I am. Oh? I tilted my head slightly, though he couldn't see it. Upstate New York, right? Beautiful venue? Stop, he said through clenched teeth. This isn't funny. Neither is lying to me for 3 weeks. Another silence. Shorter this time. More dangerous. You went through my messages, he said finally. That's a violation of privacy. And lying about where you were going isn't a violation of trust? I asked. That's not the same thing. It is, I said. It's exactly the same thing, Evan. You just don't like being on the other side of it. He exhaled sharply. You don't understand the situation. Then explain it to me. A beat. Then he shifted tone, softer now, controlled. Sienna and I have history. You know that. When she reached out, it brought things back. Things we never really resolved. Resolved? I repeated. Is that what you call booking a hotel room next to hers? Silence. I let it sit. Nothing happened, he said quickly. We didn't do anything. Then why lie? I knew you'd react like this. React like what? I asked. Like someone whose boyfriend is emotionally cheating on her? That's not... I read everything, I cut in. Every message, every plan, every excuse you made for why she shouldn't marry him. He didn't respond. Because he couldn't. You said you were confused, I continued. That you needed closure, that she needed closure. Funny how that closure required adjoining rooms. Stop twisting it, he snapped. You're making it sound worse than it is. I don't need to make it sound like anything, I said quietly. You did that all on your own. His breathing was louder now. Uneven. You had no right, he said. No right to send that to him. You humiliated her. You destroyed everything. I told the truth, I replied. What he did with it isn't my responsibility. He called off the wedding, Evan said, voice rising. Do you understand that? It's over. Families are fighting. There are lawsuits being threatened. You didn't just hurt me. You hurt a lot of people. I leaned forward slightly, my voice still steady. Evan, if a wedding can be destroyed by the truth, it was already broken. That landed. I heard it in the silence that followed. Then, quieter now. You've ruined my life. I almost laughed. Instead, I said, you ruined your own life the moment you decided lying was easier than honesty. That's not fair. No, I agreed. What you did wasn't fair. He was quiet again. Then he tried one last angle. Look, I'm sorry I lied, he said. I am. But what happens now? You just end everything? Just like that? I didn't hesitate. Yes. Another pause. Longer this time. He wasn't expecting that. 18 months, he said finally. That's all it takes for you to walk away? No, I said. It takes 3 weeks of lying, a secret trip to your ex's wedding, and a hotel room next door. That's not what it was. It is, I cut in. That's exactly what it was. His voice hardened. So that's it? That's it. A breath. Then, bitter. I loved you, you know. I closed my eyes for a second. Maybe, I said, but you didn't respect me, and that matters more. He didn't respond to that, because there wasn't anything left to say. Pack your things when you get back, I added. I'll have them ready. You're kicking me out? You already left, I said. And then I hung up. An hour later, my phone rang again. Unknown number. I stared at it for a second, then answered. Hello? There was a pause. Then a man's voice. Soft, controlled, but not steady. Is this Naomi? Yes. Another pause. My name is Daniel Rivera. My stomach dropped slightly. Not from fear, from gravity. I was supposed to get married this weekend, he continued. I swallowed. I know. Silence. Then, unexpectedly, thank you. I blinked. What? You didn't have to do what you did, he said. But you did, and I needed to see it before it was too late. I leaned back slowly into the couch. I'm sorry, I said quietly. I didn't want to hurt you. You didn't, he replied. You saved me. His voice tightened slightly on the last word. I always felt like something was off, he continued. Like she wasn't all the way there. I just ignored it. I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. We all do, I said. He let out a short, humorless laugh. Yeah, he said, we do. A pause. Then, how long, he asked, from what you saw? About 2 months, I said. But it felt like more. It always does, he murmured. We sat in that shared understanding for a second. Two strangers, connected by the same lie. For what it's worth, I added, you deserve better. So did you, he said. Another pause. Then, softer. Take care of yourself, Naomi. You too, Daniel. And just like that, it was over. Not just the wedding, not just my relationship, but the illusion of both. That night, Evan posted nothing. No stories, no updates, no damage control, just silence. But I knew better. In moments like this, silence is never empty. It's just the space right before everything falls apart. The next afternoon, I heard the sound of a key sliding into my lock. A pause. A twist. Nothing. Another try, harder this time. Then, Naomi opened the door. His voice, sharp, frustrated, already defensive. I didn't move right away. There was something almost surreal about it, like watching a scene you had already finished replay itself, except this time you knew every line before it was spoken. Another rattle of the handle. Naomi, I know you're in there. I stood up slowly, walked to the door, and unlocked it. When I opened it, Evan was exactly how I expected. Tired, disheveled, eyes red, but not from sadness, more like exhaustion and anger mixed together. But he wasn't alone. Standing behind him was a woman in her late 50s, perfect posture, tightly set mouth, the kind of presence that filled space without needing to raise her voice. His mother. And next to her, slightly off to the side, was a guy I didn't recognize. Early 30s, hands in his pockets, already uncomfortable. Back up. Of course. Evan stepped forward immediately. You changed the locks? Yes, I said simply. You can't do that. I already did. He stared at me like he was waiting for the rest of the explanation. There wasn't one. His mother stepped forward, voice calm but firm. Naomi, let us come inside so we can talk about this like adults. No, I said. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be. Just clear. Evan let out a sharp breath. Are you serious right now? Completely. He gestured toward the door. This is my home. Was, I corrected. Your name was never on the lease, Evan. This apartment was mine before you moved in, and it's still mine now. His expression shifted, not hurt. Offended. Excuse me. You don't live here anymore. That's not how this works, he snapped. You don't just get to decide that. I didn't decide it, I said. You did, when you got on that plane after lying to me for 3 weeks. His mother stepped in again, a little sharper this time. This is ridiculous. Relationships have problems. People make mistakes. That doesn't mean you throw someone out on the street. I didn't throw him out, I said calmly. I packed his things carefully and moved them to storage. Evan blinked. You what? There's a unit on 5th, paid through the end of the month. I'll give you the key. For a second, none of them spoke. Even the guy in the back shifted his weight, like he wasn't sure he wanted to be here anymore. You went through my things? Evan asked, voice low now. I packed your things, I corrected, carefully. That's insane. No, I said. What you did was insane. This is just logistics. His mother scoffed. Logistics? You humiliated him. You destroyed that wedding. And now you're acting like this is some kind of business transaction? I met her gaze evenly. It is. That threw her off more than anything else I'd said. Because she expected emotion. She expected tears, anger, or something she could push back against. But I wasn't giving her that. Evan ran a hand through his hair, pacing once across the small hallway like he needed to burn off the frustration. You didn't have to do that, he said. You could have talked to me. I did, I replied. You lied. That doesn't justify. I gave you chances, I cut in. 3 weeks worth. He stopped pacing. That wasn't... Don't, I said quietly. Don't rewrite it now. Silence. Behind him, the other guy finally spoke. Hey, maybe we should just grab his stuff and go. Evan turned on him immediately. Stay out of it. I'm just saying this feels like something you two should handle without an audience. Smart. He was realizing what he'd walked into. Evan ignored him and turned back to me. I need my things, he said. They're in storage. My immediate things, he snapped. My laptop, my medication, clothes. I nodded once. I have a box. I stepped back inside, grabbed the box I had already set aside by the door, and brought it out. Everything he'd need right away. The rest was not my problem. I held it out. He took it, more roughly than necessary, and started going through it right there in the hallway. Where's my watch? He demanded. Storage. My camera? Storage. That was expensive. So was my rent, I said. That hit. Hard. He froze for half a second, then continued digging through the box faster. You're being petty, he muttered. I'm being thorough. His mother stepped closer, lowering her voice like she was trying a different approach. Naomi, listen to me. He made a mistake. A bad one, yes. But this is extreme. I looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time, I saw it clearly. This wasn't about understanding. This was about minimizing. He didn't make a mistake, I said. He made a series of choices over and over again. That's what relationships are, she insisted. You work through things. Not this, I said. Evan scoffed. So what? You're perfect now? You've never done anything wrong? I've never lied to you about flying across the country to see my ex while staying in a room next to him, I replied. That shut him up. The other guy shifted again, clearly uncomfortable. Yeah, I really think I'm gonna head out, he said quietly. Evan turned. Seriously? I didn't know it was this, he said. You told me it was just a fight. Evan didn't respond. Because there wasn't anything to say. The guy gave me an awkward nod, then walked off down the hall without another word. One less witness. Evan exhaled sharply, like everything was slipping faster than he expected. You didn't have to embarrass me like this, he said. I didn't embarrass you, I replied. You exposed yourself. That's not the same thing. It is, I said. You just don't like the outcome. His phone rang. He glanced at the screen, then stepped aside to answer. I caught pieces of it. Yeah, no, I know. I told you I didn't. They're threatening. What? Okay, just handle it for now. He hung up, jaw tight. That was Daniel, he said. He's talking about legal action. His family is furious. This is spiraling, Naomi. I tilted my head slightly. And you caused this. No, I said calmly. The truth caused this. I just delivered it. He stared at me like he was trying to find something. Guilt, regret, anything he could use. But there wasn't anything there, because I had already processed it, already decided, already let go. His mother stepped in one last time. Where is he supposed to go? She asked. I didn't hesitate. With you. She stiffened. He has a life here. Then he should have protected it, I said. Evan laughed bitterly. Wow. I didn't respond, because there was nothing left to explain. They stood there for another second. 3 people on one side of the doorway, 1 on the other. And for the first time since this started, I felt nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just distance. Evan shifted the box in his arms, looking at me one last time. I loved you, he said. I met his eyes. Then you should have acted like it. That was it. No yelling, no dramatic ending. Just truth. They turned and walked away. I closed the door, locked it, and leaned back against it for a moment, listening to the silence settle back into place. An hour later, my phone buzzed. A payment request. Evan Mercer, $1,200. Moving expenses since you kicked me out. I stared at it for a second, then declined it. Added a note. Storage unit is paid through the month. Another request. $150. First month storage. Declined. Another. $600 therapy. I almost laughed. Declined. One more. $2,400. Last month's rent. I covered. I raised an eyebrow at that one. Declined. Added. You didn't. Then, finally, a single payment. $0.01. Note. What you're worth. I looked at it. Considered it. Then accepted. Sent back. $0.02. Note. Here's my 2 cents. Pay your own bills. A second later. Blocked. The silence after Evan blocked me wasn't peaceful. Not at first. It was the kind of silence that still hummed with leftover tension, like a room after an argument where the air hasn't quite settled yet. His presence was gone, but the outline of it lingered on the couch, in the kitchen, in the empty space beside the bed. I noticed it most in the small things. The missing second toothbrush, the half-empty closet, the fact that I didn't have to move someone else's things just to make space for mine. And then slowly that silence started to change. 2 days passed before anything new happened. No calls, no messages, no dramatic follow-up, just quiet. Until an email came in. Subject line, we need to clear this up. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity is a stubborn thing. I clicked. It was from Evan. Long, rambling, exactly what I expected. He started by saying, I misunderstood everything, that I had taken private emotional conversations and turned them into something bigger than they were, that Sienna and Daniel were already having problems, that the wedding might not have happened anyway, that I had accelerated something inevitable. I read that line twice. Accelerated something inevitable. Funny how people rewrite timelines when the truth shows up too early for their comfort. He kept going. He said he and Sienna had real feelings that never got closure, that what they had was complicated, that I had reduced it to something ugly because I couldn't handle uncertainty. That word again, uncertainty. Like this had ever been about confusion instead of choice. Then came the part that almost impressed me. He wrote, You didn't just hurt me. You destroyed something that could have been meaningful. I leaned back in my chair and let out a quiet breath. Meaningful. A hidden relationship. At someone else's wedding. Built on lies. Meaningful. I didn't respond right away. I made coffee, sat by the window, and watched people walk past like nothing had happened anywhere in the world. Because for them, nothing had. That's the strange thing about these situations. Your life can collapse in a single moment, and the rest of the world just keeps moving. Eventually, I opened my laptop again, clicked reply, and typed one sentence. If it was so meaningful, why were you hiding it? I hit send, closed the laptop, and that was the last thing I ever said to him. He didn't respond. Later that night, I checked social media for the first time since everything blew up. I wasn't looking for him. At least that's what I told myself. Sienna's profile was still public. The engagement photos were gone. The captions had changed. The comments were locked. In their place were quotes. Everything happens for a reason. Some endings are necessary beginnings. Protect your peace. I stared at the screen for a second. Not angry. Not even surprised. Just aware of how quickly people rewrite themselves when the version of their life they were performing falls apart. Evan wasn't in any of the recent posts. No mention of him. No acknowledgement. Just a clean narrative shift, like none of it had ever happened. The next morning, my phone rang again. I almost ignored it, but the name made me pause. Daniel Rivera, I answered. Hey, I said. Hey, he replied. His voice sounded steadier this time. Not calm exactly, but grounded. I hope I'm not bothering you, he said. You're not. A pause. I just wanted to let you know. Things are settling, he said. I nodded slightly. That's good. There's still fallout, he added. Families, money, a lot of cleanup. I'm sorry, I said. I'm not, he replied. That caught me off guard. I mean, he said with a soft exhale, it's messy, but at least it's honest now. I understood that, more than I wanted to. I keep thinking about what would have happened if I didn't see it, he continued. If I went through with it. You'd be dealing with it later, I said. Exactly. A pause. Then quieter. So, thank you, again. You don't have to keep thanking me, I said. I know, he replied. I just don't want you thinking you did something wrong. I looked out the window. I don't, I said. And for the first time, that was completely true. After we hung up, I walked through the apartment slowly, taking it in not as a shared space anymore, but as mine. The living room felt bigger, the kitchen quieter, the bedroom lighter. Not because I was happier, because something heavy had been removed. 3 weeks. That's how long the storage unit was paid for. I knew the deadline was coming, knew there was a good chance Evan or his mother would reach out again, try to guilt me, try to shift responsibility, try to pull me back into something I had already stepped out of. But I also knew something else. I didn't owe him anything anymore. Not explanations, not support, not even anger. That night, I ordered takeout from a place he used to complain about, sat on the couch, turned on the TV, and let the quiet fill the room without fighting it. No tension, no waiting for messages, no wondering who he was texting or what version of the truth he was telling someone else. Just space. It's strange. People think the hardest part of something like this is the moment everything explodes, the confrontation, the betrayal, the ending. But it's not. The hardest part is what comes after, when there's no noise left to distract you, no chaos to focus on, just you and the truth. And the truth was simple. He lied. I saw it, and I chose not to stay. The rest was just consequences. The storage unit deadline came and went without a message. No call, no last-minute guilt trip, no dramatic attempt to reopen something that had already ended. Just silence. And for the first time since all of this started, it wasn't heavy. It wasn't waiting for something else to happen. It felt complete. A week later, I got one final email. Not from Evan. From a different address I didn't recognize at first. Then I opened it. Sienna Hale. I stared at her name for a second before clicking. It was short. Surprisingly short. I don't expect a response. I just wanted to say I know what you did, and I know why you did it. A part of me hates you for it. A bigger part of me knows you didn't lie. That's all. I read it twice, then closed it. Didn't reply. There was nothing left to say between us, because whatever existed there wasn't really about us. It was about him, and he was no longer my problem. Evan never reached out again. No second email. No apology. No attempt to explain himself in a way that wasn't about protecting his own version of the story. At some point, I realized something I hadn't fully processed before. He didn't just lie to me. He lived inside the lie. Comfortably. Easily. Like it was something he had been practicing long before I ever noticed. And once you see that, once you really understand it, there's no going back. No working through it. No rebuilding. Because you're not fixing a mistake. You're confronting a pattern. A month later, I ran into someone who knew him. Not a close friend. Just someone from his extended circle. We ended up in the same coffee shop, recognized each other, exchanged that awkward half smile people use when they know something happened, but don't know how much they're allowed to say. Sienna's doing okay, he said carefully. I didn't ask why he was telling me that. I just nodded. That's good. He hesitated. Then, He's been telling people you overreacted. Of course he had. I took a sip of my coffee. Yeah, I said simply. He says you went through his messages, twisted things, blew everything up. I nodded. That sounds like something he'd say. The guy studied my face for a second like he expected more. More emotion. More defense. More explanation. There wasn't any. Is it true? He asked. I met his eyes. No, I said. And that was enough. Because the truth doesn't need a performance. That night, I thought about it longer than I expected. Not about him. About perception. About how easily stories get reshaped depending on who's telling them. In his version, I was the villain. The one who invaded privacy. The one who destroyed something meaningful. The one who couldn't handle uncertainty. In mine, I was just someone who refused to ignore what was right in front of me. A few days later, I got one last message. From Daniel. Just a photo. No caption. I opened it. It was the digital frame, sitting on a shelf. Still on, but no longer playing the messages. Just a blank screen. Clean. Reset. A quiet kind of closure. I smiled. Not because it was funny. Because it felt right. That night, I walked through my apartment again. Same rooms. Same furniture. Same light coming through the windows. But everything felt different. Not because something new had been added. Because something unnecessary had been removed. People always ask if I regret it. Not directly, but in the way they look at you when they hear the story. In the pause before they say, that's intense. In the careful tone they use when they ask, would you do it again? I always give them the same answer. I didn't ruin anything. I just told the truth. And the truth is this. If someone has to hide you to keep their life intact, you're not part of their life. You're part of the lie. I don't check his social media anymore. I don't wonder what he's doing. I don't care who he's with. Because whatever version of himself he's showing now, it's still just that. A version. What matters is simpler than that. I wake up in a space that feels honest. I move through days that don't require second guessing. I don't look at someone I love and wonder what they're hiding. And maybe that doesn't sound dramatic. Maybe it doesn't sound like the kind of ending people expect. No big revenge moment. No perfect closure scene. Just quiet. But after everything, quiet is exactly what I wanted. Because once you remove the lies from your life, you finally have room to breathe.